started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Heroux. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Welcome to South Coast Tonight. Oh, man. I'm Marcus Heroux. This is the day after elections here in Bristol County in the Commonwealth and throughout the country. And welcome to the show, South Coast Tonight. Got a good show ahead for you. Chris isn't here tonight. We were on air for 6 hours. Thank you to the Taunton City Hall for not getting their votes in until like 1 o'clock. So we were on air for 6 hours. I'm going to send a bill to the Taunton City Hall for all the coffee I drank today. And I'm here with you, though, because that's what heroes do. And speaking of which, Bristol County Sheriff-elect Paul Heroux, whichever you'd like to call it, he's going to be joining us at 8:05. He's going to be calling in. So I want to do what we've done with both Hodgson and Heroux throughout the campaign, but I want to get him in for a full interview, where we can take calls and you can call him and voice your concerns, voice your support, what have you. And we're definitely going to do that. But everybody's tired. So, and that's going to be, that's really going to be quite a thing. And he's excited to do it. We're just going to do a half-hour phone call today. He's going to talk about his upset victory, and he's going to give us his vision to be the next Bristol County Sheriff. It definitely was a shocking victory, I got to say. To talk about that and to talk about the election results, we have a guest of the show last night and a guest of the show this evening, New Bedford Light columnist Jack Spillane. Hey, Jack.
Hey, good to hear you, Mark.
Yeah.
I got about 3 hours sleep last night.
Yeah,
How much did you get?
Same, actually. I think I went to bed at like 5. It was just because I was kind of like all wound up from like the adrenaline rush of getting those numbers in and all of that. So
it's a very heady atmosphere for journalists.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. We appreciate. So I really appreciate you calling in last night and giving us the New Bedford numbers. And we wanted to talk about that a little bit in this Bristol Sheriff's race. Is that those once those numbers came in, I listened to it again on the podcast version when you gave us the New Bedford numbers live on air. I was like, I said, I think Heroux won. So, what are your thoughts on that? The turnout in New Bedford for Heroux, the vote margins. What's your thoughts?
So when I was in the election office last night, and unlike years ago, I was the only reporter in there because most of them just wait for other people to get the numbers nowadays.
Yeah.
And Manny DeBrito, the election commission chair, announced those numbers. I audibly gasped.
Yeah.
Because I knew that he probably would win, that Heroux would probably win New Bedford. It's a Democratic city, and it's a city that, even in the past, Hodgson has not won.
Yeah.
But to think that he had lost by 4,500 votes was just unfathomable to me. And I knew right away, just from my knowledge of how many votes there were out there, that this was going to be hard to make up. And that proved to be the case throughout the city throughout the region as we talked last night.
Yeah.
If you compare the the very similar sized city of Fall River, there was only a 1,000 vote margin. Same thing in Heroux's hometown of Attleboro, where the margin was also about 1,000. There were some other suburbs where the margin was 700, 600, 500, but no place anywhere like New Bedford. And we asked at the press conference that Heroux held outside he lives in a very modest old farmhouse on one of the main drags in South Attleboro. It's actually quite a charming place. And we asked him about that at the press conference today, and he said he deliberately targeted New Bedford. He had been recruited by Bristol County for Correctional Justice a year or so ago. He's an ambitious guy. He wants to solve problems. He believes he has the talent to do it. And so he said that he did 5,000 door-to-doors in New Bedford. Now, I pressed him on that a little bit, and he said, yeah, the majority of those 5,000 door knockings are just leafleting, is what you're doing.
Yeah, sure.
And but that saves you mailing costs, and it also allows you to, if you run into one for every 10 people, those people talk to some of their neighbors, and it gets the word out. So this was just a very, very intensive effort in the place where he knew BCCJ, which Marlene Pollock and David Ahrens are two political activists that are kind of the moving forces behind that. Marlene, in particular, also has Coalition for Social Justice, which has great political organizational strength in getting out a vote in New Bedford and Dartmouth. So I really think that he won overall by about 2,800 votes, I think.
Yeah, and it was because you ran up the score in New Bedford, really.
Yeah, so you take away the 4,500 votes in New Bedford, and the sheriff wins.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was always going to win New Bedford. It was just a matter of how much. And yeah, just the fact that he got just it was New Bedford that sent Paul Heroux to the sheriff's office, basically. I mean, he did win out of the 4 cities in the county. Heroux did win 3 of them. Taunton, obviously a Republican enclave in the county, went for Hodgson, but went narrowly. Hodgson, when we were waiting for Taunton, we basically said Hodgson needs to get the same margin in Taunton in order to make up the difference, and he wasn't able to do that.
And it's a much smaller city. It's only about half as large as New Bedford.
Yeah, right. That too. Yeah, it's a much smaller city. So, what is it? Is there any, besides the organizational structure he had, which was based in New Bedford? Marlene Pollock obviously won an election herself in New Bedford. She's a school committee member. Besides, the organizational efforts in New Bedford, is there any other meaning that we can get from his high turnout, his wide margins in the city?
Well, I was actually just going to ask you what you thought of that. When I was sitting down to write my column tonight, one of the things that I thought was, well, who is at the Bristol County House of Correction?
That's exactly what I thought.
Jail?
That's exactly what I thought.
And we asked Heroux that in Attleboro today. He brought up, there's a lot of corrections officers that live in the city, and not all of them are happy. And I'm sure the ones that were not happy contacted him. But what I was thinking was there's a lot of inmates. That's
what I was thinking. Not the correction officers, because Hodgson ran with the endorsement of his union for the first time ever in his 25-year history.
True. Although that's leadership mainly, I think.
Fair enough. But that's not making up the difference there. That's what was my thinking is where are the majority of the people that are actually at the House of Correction? Where are their families, right? And if they're in New Bedford, that was my thinking. I mean, it could just be because New Bedford's an increasingly bluer city, and they did an effective job of tying the albatross of Trump around Hodgson's neck too. I mean, that could be it too. If it could be Occam's razor, right? New Bedford's a Democratic city. He's and he's a Republican, but
and also it's a city that is about almost 50% minority now, and they really went heavy on the racism anti-Semitism charges.
Yeah.
We asked.
Go ahead.
We asked him about what he thought, whether it was recidivism or the suicide rates, and he said that when he was going door to door, very quickly he realized that it was everything. In other words, the sheriff's been in office a long time, and anybody who's been in office, I remember this with Fred Kalis. When you get to be 8-10 years, you've had to say no to almost as many people as you said yes to.
Yeah.
And you begin to accumulate political enemies. And he said what he heard very early on in the door-to-door was, enough. This guy is always there's always some sort of controversy around him. Enough.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the sheriff is outspoken, on a lot of things, and it could have drawn the ire of some people. And then he's outspoken. Some people say it's grandstanding or whatever. I think the sheriff's a true believer in the things that he's saying, but willing to act on them. But I think it probably just doesn't resonate well with, like you said, increasingly seems like an increasingly diversified and more liberal population of the city in New Bedford. So you went up to Attleboro today. I know you got to call him out, so I don't want to give it away, but
I've given half of it away already.
Yeah. So you went up to Attleboro. What was the vibe up there?
All the Boston and Providence television stations were there, of course. And really, my sense was that people just did not know what to make of this guy. He's such an unorthodox politician.
Yeah.
He came out, he was dressed in khakis, and he said, I didn't have any campaign manager. I did most of this myself. When I was, the first 2 or 3 years when I was mayor, I just wore jeans to work, and then finally last year I decided I really should start wearing khakis or make some sort of an appearance. And he's what you would call a policy wonk, a nerdy guy, and he is. He'll talk your ear off, about his thoughts on recidivism and programming and scientific studies, and he'll move on to the Middle East and his thoughts about international policy in the Middle East. He's just a very cerebral guy, I would say. But people just had a hard time. One thing that was interesting to me was, and this is not me, even though I've written about it before. One of the people asked him about the pronunciation of his name again, which I'm a cynical old journalist, and I think, anybody who's pronouncing the name Heroux, jeepers, I'd like to be known as columnist Jack Heroux,
Right, yeah.
And so, I tried every which way but loose to pin him down as to how they, pronounced the pharmacy name when he was growing up, and he would not be pinned down. And finally, he named some sort of martial arts that he studied when he was a young, in high school and a college student. And he said that Bruce Lee used to, I forget what the name of the martial arts school is, but he said they asked Bruce Lee about that school and what was the meaning of it. And Bruce Lee said, it's just words. It doesn't mean anything. All this focus that you're making on the pronunciation, it's just sideshow stuff. He just would not be drawn in to even tipping his hand as to whether he changed the pronunciation. He insisted that, to his memory, and his father sold the pharmacy when he was 10 years old. They pronounced it Heroux when he was growing up, but he wasn't quite sure. He said some people pronounced it Heroux, Heroux.
Heroux is definitely not correct. That cannot be correct.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the North Shore where there were a lot of French Canadians, and Heroux was the way that we pronounced it up there. But I take him at his word. The only reason I'm giving this example is because he won't be drawn in to a debate on your terms. He's going to frame things on his terms, and he has benchmarks that he wants, points he wants to make, and he stays on message.
That's what any good elected official does. He also will capitulate when it's clear he's wrong about something, he'll just say, "Yeah, I was wrong," so you don't have any.
But have you noticed that often when he's trapped?
Yeah, but it's a good thing. I think it's better than trying to argue your way out of a difficult situation. She's like, "No, that's correct. I was wrong. I'll be better," because I think it's very human.
And he makes the point that I think is a valid one, and I want to stipulate before I say this. I like Tom Hodgson personally.
Me too.
And that is why when he wouldn't do this chat with me this year, I felt so badly about it. Not because I needed the chat. The chat's successful. I don't need it that much for that. But I felt badly because I always felt I had been fair to him, and also had been interested in what he had to say, even though I don't always agree with it.
Sure.
And I think that he said that when Tom Hodgson talks about the suicides, he prefaces it by saying, we didn't do anything wrong. We did everything we could. And in all honesty, the numbers to a certain extent speak for themselves. And any person would say, those numbers do seem a little bit high compared to the rest of the state.
Yeah.
At least they were for a certain period. And, maybe there are some things that we ought to explore or we should do. And I thought that was a very... It was a way. Hodgson didn't really have any response to that in the debate that you guys did, or the one on Channel 12. I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know that debates really make any difference as to how people vote. I really think that a couple of things. The suicide, that unfortunate suicide taking place during the campaign, I just think brought that whole issue back, and I think the Trump Association was baggage that he didn't carry in his earlier re-election campaigns.
That's exactly
He's always
it.
controversial, but half the people loved him, half the people hated him, but a lot of people in Massachusetts hate Trump.
Yes. No, seriously, that's part of it, is that he was, I think they effectively, a lot of that's through I think what was a master class in direct mail by the outside groups, were able to effectively tie Hodgson to Trump, and it's if you don't, I wonder. I don't know how much retail stuff he did. Like Heroux got out there. I mean, Hodgson was at a lot of events. He has the canines. He brings them to a lot of public safety events and stuff like that. He definitely gets out there. But Hodgson, on a personal level, is, like you said, you like him personally. I do too. He's a relentlessly likable guy if you meet him, right? And
I think he's a very earnest.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt his sincerity at all. Even though I same as you, I don't agree with him on most things. But I don't know how much retail stuff he did, like Heroux, like going door to door or anything like that. Yeah. It's not a hallmark of his campaign.
I think he's 68 years old. I mean, he's my age. He's not doing that much door to door retail.
Yeah. But I'm saying if he maybe got in front of more people, I don't know if that could have made a difference, because a lot of people will have their opinions on the guy. And then you meet him, and you're like, "Oh wow, he's really nice." That's kind of how I felt. I was like, "Oh wow, he's really nice." But
last night I was feeling, especially when I heard that, and first, I want to make the point that he is to be praised for conceding that race the way he did, because one thing I was worried about was that he would take the Trump model of not conceding a race that all the factual evidence shows that he did lose, and you take that model and put it onto the local level.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be devastating for Bristol County to have a long, protracted debate as to whether, and I know Manny DeBrito, I almost said Manny Ramirez, Manny DeBrito in the election office has been getting a lot of complaints about conspiracies about when the machines break down, which they do break down.
I didn't like his comments today about some of the people that were questioning him. Now he said they all live in the basement or something like that. I thought that was a really crappy thing to say about people that you're supposed to be serving. But I didn't really like that at all. I thought that was bad form on his part. But I'm not surprised that, I mean, when he conceded, I saw his concession, the video that was recorded on NBC 10. He was very just as most people would do normally under normal circumstances, before all of this stop the steal nonsense. And I was like, I'm not surprised by that. That's if you know him, that's how he is.
But it was important to do that because we had this example of President Trump and some of his acolytes, saying never concede, and I think that's really damaging to democracy if people are going to take the position in races where they clearly lost that they didn't lose. I thought it was really classy of Hodgson. Yes, you can argue that that's the minimum you would expect, but still we haven't been getting that recently. So I was glad he did it. But I do think that he's done a lot of public service, and I do think sometimes, and you really see this with both President Biden and Trump right now, is people can stay too long at the fair.
Yep.
Exactly. And I think of that myself.
Yep. Right. Yeah. I get it. I think that's part of it too. People just say, well, it's something new, something different. People like to be excited, So in a lot of cases, I think that does cut against him because it could be I don't care who's there. Just he's been there for 25 years, and I was thinking too. With Heroux, because he said, I term limit myself because I don't think you should be in the office too long, right? And I was like, man, he backed himself into a corner if he doesn't win this election. Ended up working out for him. But I think that was, an effective part of his messaging as well, saying, well, he wants to be here for 31 years plus the other, 8 years he's been in office before. I don't think that's great. I think maybe that was, that might have been effective. I think that might have been effective. I don't know.
I think it was effective. He actually took the traditional Republican position of term limits and turns it on Hodgson. Today, he did not even commit to me for running for re-election once. When I pressed him, the only thing he would commit to was that he would serve the whole 6 years, that he would not go for another office, because this is an ambitious guy. You just get that impression.
It's worked for him so far.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, you just think about it. He has taken out a 7-term incumbent mayor, a 1-term incumbent state rep, and now a 25-year incumbent sheriff. That's pretty heady credentials.
It is. It really is. He did say, he's never committed to 2 terms. He's always said 1 term, maybe 2. That's what he's always.
Okay. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, he said 1 term. That's what I've heard him say that here, and to me, over just said I'm going to serve 1 term, maybe 2. So I think that's where he's at.
It's going to be interesting. He says he's not going to wear the uniform. And they asked him whether he would carry a firearm, and he said that he did not think he would, but that there might be an occasion where he would do.
He doesn't have an FID card yet, I don't think.
Oh, he doesn't. Okay.
Well, that's what they were. So I'm not sure. It was a campaign ad that was run by Hodgson, which I actually thought was pretty good. You don't need one. I don't think you need one. First of all, if you have one, great. I don't think you need one.
Yeah, but I mean, the chief of police of New Bedford, I would say, appears in plain suit as often as he. I mean, I don't know whether he's carrying or not, but the chief does not appear in uniform the majority.
It's an administrative role. It's an administrative role. The thing is, I thought it was a good ad actually. It was like Heroux doesn't have his firearms license, and it has a guy he has like a pistol and he has a bullet. He doesn't know how to put it in the gun. So I don't think
that keys into the whole law enforcement thing. And Heroux is trying to make the point that it's not a law enforcement job. I think technically Hodgson is right if the way that it's written in the state constitution, it does say chief law enforcement officer, but that has not been, for all practical purposes, the job for a long, long time.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, I gotta hit this break, but anything else you want to leave the audience with? Jack Spillane, New Bedford Light, by the way. New Bedford.
No, I just want to praise WBSM for. I mean, you guys really were, because this is a news desert nowadays, and people don't realize what they're getting from this live election coverage you did. And of course, I want to plug NewBedfordLight.org, free investigative reporting.
Yeah.
You don't get that in many places nowadays in journalism.
Especially at the local level, like you guys are doing. It's really good stuff. There's the skull-pleasing stuff Anastasia's doing, Will Senot's article on the consolidation in the fishing industry. There's a lot of great stuff there that people really should check out. So NewBedfordLight.org. Jack, thanks for joining.
plus great arts coverage too.
Yes, plus great arts coverage as well. There's a lot there for people to check out. Jack, thanks so much for joining me. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Marcus.
It's Jack Spillane, New Bedford Light. I'll take this call before we hit the break. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
How you doing?
I wish Heroux a lot of luck. He's going to need some luck. Everybody
sure.
needs a little bit of luck.
It's a tough job.
But I think he's going to be lenient. And I said earlier, I think you'll see the TVs come back in.
Yeah, maybe.
And he's a preventer of suicide. So now here's where the rubber meets the road. So let's hope he's corrected. His implementation is going to reduce that.
Well, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be suicides in jails do happen, right? There's going to be one that happens while Heroux's sheriff. And the first time it happens, you're going to have people who his detractors say, "Oh, see, you couldn't do anything about it." But it's one of those things you're going to have to look at over a period of time and see.
I'd say years.
Yeah, years. Yeah, years. Like his first term, maybe, or like if he runs again 2 terms, you're gonna have to look at over a period of years and say, okay, did he make it better or did he not?
I agree with you because I think that's what happened with the Sheriff Hodgson. When they condemned his suicide rate was over a period of years.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a rash of suicides or any particular national news story.
It was over like 15 or so years. Yeah.
Right. And now also with the beloved Charlotte Diner that remains on the property, do you think that this liberal will revitalize that?
That's a great question.
He gets a lot of dark money. Can he spend some of it on that in the name of rehabilitation and corrections?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's actually a great question. What's to come of the Charlotte Diner? Because obviously Phil has a great relationship with Sheriff Hodgson. I think that was part of the reason he gave it over. But that's
you're pinpointing where I was going with it, and you're very perceptive. Now, if nothing's done with it in a year, I would say scrap the whole thing, and then that would be the first stain on the new administration, if you will.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, listen, thanks for the call. I got to hit this break.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. And welcome back to South Coast Night. I'm Marcus. Chris will be back Friday. I'm here for a couple days flying solo. Attleboro, I'm going to say Attleboro Mayor and Sheriff-elect Paul Heroux is going to be on at 8:05. He's going to call in. We're going to talk a little bit about his upset victory and what his plans are for day one. And Adam Bass, who's on the North Star Reporter, you might have heard us talking about him a lot because he's really been on this sheriff's race and covering a lot of it from the northern part of the county where Mayor Heroux is from. So he's been a great friend of the network, and looking forward to having him on at 9:05 to give his thoughts. But we're getting your thoughts now at 508-996-0500. Good evening.
Hi, Marcus. How you doing?
Hey, Tom. What's up?
Well, I'm still sitting on the end of my bed waiting for the Taunton results to come in.
No.
Have you got those results?
They came in just after we signed off, too. We were kind of like, I was tired. It was like, all right, we're not going to get these. But, I was in my car, and I just, what I did is I called Heroux. I was in my car. I called Heroux. I said, what's up? Did you win? Because it looks like you're going to win. Did you win this race or not? And he's like, no. He goes, I said, are we still waiting for Taunton? He goes, oh, no, Taunton came in. I won. I only lost by Taunton by like 1,000 votes. I said, so you won? He goes, yeah, I won. He's like, yep, I won.
So he lost Taunton by 1,000 votes, and what was the total vote in Taunton?
Yeah, he sent me a picture. Let me pull it up. It's going to take a second.
And the same thing with the Kushner. I was interested in those 2 points.
Oh, he lost the Kushner by like 1,300. Hodgson won. Hodgson won a Kushner pretty handedly. Okay, so Taunton 7. Okay, so he lost by under 1,000 actually. Taunton was 8,341. Hodgson 7,773. Heroux, so about 16,000-ish votes.
So you almost split it, yeah. Well, okay, That's good. I enjoyed Jack's assessment.
Yes.
I think there is a few more variables that I think occurs particularly if you're a long-term incumbent and you've gone to the well so many times during the campaign, you sort of adapt your campaign effort to what has worked for you in the past. And certainly the enthusiasm of your opponent becomes part of how that campaign is shaped. Mm-hmm. I really think Heroux out-campaigned him. I had a number of relatives throughout the greater Bedford community here where Heroux knocked on their door. Yep. And I was impressed by that. I mean, they were calling me on the phone. I said, really? Babe, Attaboy, New Bedford. It was like, wow. So that this guy, and everybody should know that we think we're tired. You can imagine how he feels.
Well, no, I know. And I talked to him earlier. He's like got 2 hours of sleep because they were up all night getting those results. They were at the Somerset VFW. And to that point of people knocking doors, I know I had people call into the show and tell me, not that this, even when I had my Saturday show just back in the spring, they called into the Saturday show and said, I literally just got door knocked by the Paul Heroux, and I like him or whatever. But actually, and I know it's not BS because one guy called in and said, I got door knocked by Paul Heroux and I don't like him. He walked away from me. So he campaigned like a heart attack. He just didn't stop.
Yeah,
So.
not only that, the intensity of some of the things that go happen beyond the wall, so to speak, as they say. Mm-hmm. And that's a constant phenomenon. Yeah. And I think that spilled over, and in terms of what the New Bedford vote turnout was, along with the hanging of Trump around his neck toward the last 10 days of the campaign, I thought that was probably more of a key than anything else. Yeah,
and I thought the thing is you knew that was an issue, the Trump thing, because he was throughout the campaign distancing himself from it. I remember the debate. He goes, "Oh, did you see me at Obama's?" He goes, "Oh, you were at the White House with Trump." He goes, "Did you see me with Obama too?" And I'm sure he was down there during the Obama administration. I'm sure he was. He spent a lot of time. He's done a lot of trips to Washington. I think it's because not because of Greenstead. I think is a true believer. But that right there was saying, "Oh yeah, I'd go work with any president." It's like you had a particular enthusiasm for Trump, and I think that that was hung around his neck.
Yeah, one last thing before I go, and congratulations on you guys' effort. It was wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
On the recidivism piece, we talked once about trying to get some state legislation so that when people do come out of there, they're not just walking out with a garbage bag with their clothes, with no money and no place to lay their head. Granted that's a small number of inmates, but it accumulates. And when people complain about these folks that are collecting money on the islands in New Bedford, somebody ought to pay real good attention. I know 3 people that came out of the House of Correction right down here on Brock Avenue and collected money. They had no place to lay their head. They're former addicts. They become addicts quickly again, and that's what happens. Mm-hmm. We could eliminate that borrowing of money, if you will, from the public, from these folks, if there was something put in place where they had an address with cooperation from transitional assistance and allow these people to at least come out with the potential and hope of getting their own place. Prostitutes end up back with their pimps, and they'll get an apartment with 8 or 10 of them in them because they got no place else to go. Yeah. At least they have a roof over their head, and the pimp ends up with their EBT card, walks into an ATM, and collects their money every month and protects them in that apartment. These are some of the social problems that occur in our community, that cause more crime because they leave the House of Correction with not a penny in the pocket or a place to lay their head. And I think with his legislative background, they should be able to figure out something in order for that transition to occur in a more humane way.
Yeah, it is this is a guy that came out of state prison, so this isn't under Hodgson's purview, but there's a guy that came out of a state prison bid, and then he basically, long and the short of it is, committed a petty crime because he didn't have anywhere else, because of it was a matter of lack of means and trying to get those means, right? And then got him out on bail, or I think no bail. I got him out on personal recognizance. And that person I was on my way walking to court one morning. It was the summer, but on my way walking to court from my office one morning, I stepped over him. He was sleeping on his backpack using his backpack as a pillow, and he got out of prison. He served some time in state prison, got out, and then had no other way to really provide for himself other than those unconventional means that got him there in the first place. So, I mean, it is a big problem. I do think Mayor Heroux has a big task ahead of him to try to make that better in Bristol County. But I guess we'll see. Hey, Tom, I got to hit this break, but I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.
1420 WBSM is now also on 99.5 FM. They know the local issues from the inside out, and they call it like they see it. Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow are back with more South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Marcus. 508-996-0500 is how you can get on. Again, we have Sheriff-elect Paul Heroux, who's going to be joining me at 8:05. Adam Bass is going to be joining me at 9:05. We're still going to be breaking down what happened last night. There's some other races, too, I want to talk about. Really, Chris and I have been talking about this for a while. And what I had said is the top of the ticket is a factor in this race for down ballot Republicans everywhere throughout the Commonwealth. And it was, by no exaggeration, a bloodbath for them, an electoral bloodbath. I guess that is some exaggeration, but electoral bloodbath, not an actual bloodbath. So, but it was a bloodbath. They lost first of all, the Bristol County Sheriff's race. The Democrats flipped 2 county seats, 2 countywide elections on the Cape and Islands, which is one of the Republican strongholds of the state. Michael O'Keefe, who had been there for 20 years, his deputy Dan Higgins lost to Rob Galboys, the Democrat challenger, and Donna Buckley beat State Rep Tim Whalen. Julian Sear won re-election, the Cape and Island senator, and the person I believe in Tim Whalen's seat, the race for Tim Whalen's seat was taken by a Democrat. I think they lost another House seat, so they're down a couple House seats. They lost the Senate seats. They lost the Senate race. Becca Rausch was re-elected. That was a competitive Senate race against the Rep Dooley up in the Hockomock area. So it was it was not good, and I think a lot of that was because, and I don't want to pin it all on Jeff Deal. You had Rayla Campbell there as well, but the top of the ticket was non-competitive, and the Mass GOP, I think, firebombed a lot of winnable races down here by being incompetent. Hey, listen, I got to take a break. Finishing up the first hour, and I'm sufficiently caffeinated to keep going. So 508-996-0500, but we're going to be joined by Sheriff-elect Paul Heroux in the 8 o'clock hour. He's going to call in, give us his thoughts. I know he's running pretty low on rest himself, so I do appreciate him giving us a call. And to, because I appreciate how much both Heroux and Hodgson has valued this media outlet in particular and our local audience. So, and honestly, I think Heroux has New Bedford to thank for his victory. So I think it's great that he's coming on here and to talk to the people of Greater New Bedford, the South Coast, and throughout the Commonwealth. So I will see you on the other side of the 8 o'clock hour with Sheriff-elect Heroux. And then we've got Adam Bass at 9. And I'm taking your calls. What do you think about the elections? We can talk about the national stuff, too, if you want to. Definitely a disappointing day for Republicans. Historically, they should have cleaned house. And they just didn't. But we'll talk more about that. Give us a call. Shoot us a Snapchat message.